Hi, Yurin. Okay. I read your paper and I watched your, not watched. I listened to your presentation. My first thought is that your idea is good and interesting, so that if you develop more about this idea, I think you can submit your paper. To a journal. That's my first thought. That's really interesting. Okay, and regarding the topic itself, I've read carefully about this, and just there are several questions I'd like to ask to you about this paper and this idea. That's nice. There are two players. One is that poor farmers and e-commerce platform, and you made a game model based on the evolutionary game theory. Okay, it seems so. I'm not good at evolutionary game theory. However, I have several questions. Why are you building up the model based on the evolutionary game theory? As far as I know, there are big differences between um, the general standard game theory and evolutionary game theory. In a standard game theory, each players assumed to be rational and selfish or economic man. However, evolutionary game model, those kind of rationality or selfishness may be necessary, but rationality isn't necessary, I think. I mean, Basically, players' action or behavior in an evolutionary game theory uh, basically come from their genes, DNA. So that, some group of players are supposed to choose one strategy. No, not strategy. A group of players are supposed to choose a certain behavior in an evolutionary game theory. I understand that part. However, my question is that why are you building up the game model as evolutionary game theory? I mean, my sense, well, if we once you made a model as an evolutionary game theory, implicitly you assume that it's like there are two group of people even in poor farmers. One group of poor farmers are those who are good at dealing with e-commerce platform than others. And also there are other kinds of groups, I mean, who are not good at dealing with e-commerce. So it's like there is those group of people who are good at dealing with the traditional way of marketing, and also other poor farmers are good at dealing with e-commerce. Maybe the younger and the older, something like the older one, maybe the young, something like that. And also in my sense, because you are building up this model as an evolutionary game theory, so that it's like there is a two kinds of e-commerce platform. One platform is interested in helping the poor and also expecting to receive some subsidy from the government. And also there are other group of people, group of e-commerce, which are not uh, interested dealing with this kind of, I mean, way helping the poor, something like that. There are two different kinds of um, e-commerce. Okay, I'm not sure whether you are building up in this sense, but in my sense, it's like there are two groups of genes, or maybe two group of culture in the e-commerce and even in the poor farmers, and they are interacting. And at the end of the day, um, which group of players are more fitter than other group of players, and which one will survive. That's kind of the way of understanding, right? Um, so That's fine. If you are using an evolutionary game theory, I think you should justify. Even though it is just one line or maybe two lines, but you need to say, I'm using an evolutionary game model because blah blah. Okay? If we are using just the standard game theory, it means it's like players are choosing one group of strategies in a certain situations, and also another group of players are choosing certain group of strategy depending on their benefit and cost, because they have a free will. But because if you are preferring to use the evolutionary game theory, it's like they don't have any free will. It's like they are supposed to choose a certain behavior because of their culture or maybe DNA or something else. Okay, that's fine. No matter what model you are using, that's fine. But you should justify. I'm using this game model is because blah blah. Okay, you need to do that, I think. Also, I've read the several parts. Um, okay, there are something you are saying, and here it's like there are hypothesis 1 and hypothesis 2. It says, okay, the evolutionary game is that two sides are limited rational poor farmers group and the e-commerce platform group. Okay, why should be limited rational? I don't get it. If you assume that these are different groups in the poor farmers and different groups in the e-commerce platform, it comes from their maybe culture, maybe social norms, or maybe DNA and so on. And they are supposed to choose certain behavior depending on that. There is no free will in some sense. Okay, it has nothing to do with rationality. It can be rational or maybe it may not be rational. But I don't see why you assume that limited rational. Okay, but anyway. And also you keep talking the competition system of the two groups evolves according to natural selection rule. Okay, so you are saying you are talking about the general rule of finding an equilibrium in an evolutionary game theory and achieves the final game equilibrium through continuous adjustment. Okay, this is not a hypothesis as far as I know. This is just a general assumption of the evolutionary game theory regarding how to find an equilibrium. Okay? This is not a hypothesis, assumptions. Also, if we see the second hypothesis, it says the game strategy space of poor farmers is this and this. The game strategy space of e-commerce platform is participate and don't participate. Actually, I mean, in the previous comment, I asked you to um, elaborate the specific strategy. Is because I think the game model you are using is a standard game theory. But because this is an evolutionary game theory model, so that this is not a strategy. This is a kind of different group of people. It's like there are two different group of people. One group of farmers, another group of farmers. One group of farmers are very good at dealing with e-commerce, and also another group of farmers who are not good at dealing with e-commerce. Maybe because they are old, something like that. So there are two groups of people. So in that sense, I mean, in the later, you set x as the fraction or maybe the ratio of the people who are choosing e-commerce. As far as I know, you set x as a fraction. So maybe, I mean, maybe those who choose, I mean, this E platform is more young, a young group, and maybe this guy is an old group, maybe. Then the fraction X means that the ratio of the young people, something like that. I mean, since you said that you are using evolutionary game theory, I think you should try to change the notions and some terms and so on. And this is as well. Also, this is not a hypothesis. This is an assumption. You are talking about the basic assumptions about the evolutionary game theory. Okay? Also, this is all about that. And also, you build your game model quite well here. You're talking about several numbers and how it is constructed. That's fine. That's nice. And um, you clearly elaborate the meaning of each variables here. That's fine. And finally, you make a payoff structure here. Okay. But my first thought is that there are many variables here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, something like that, 7, 8, and I mean, okay, if you want to publish this paper, I think you need to solve this table and to find, evolutionary equilibrium numerically. Not numerically means that you should put in some numbers, but you need to show a proposition that, for example, in the sense that if R is greater than R1 is greater than something and something and certain conditions is satisfied, then this equilibrium will happen. You should show that as a form of a proposition. Okay? What I mean, that's very good by this point. Finally, you building up the payoff table and you describe the meaning of each variable. That's very good. And next things you should do, you should find an equilibrium. You said something here, that's fine. However, you should find exact equilibrium and the condition. Under what condition this evolutionary equilibrium is revealed. I understand that because this is a proposal, you didn't do that, that's fine. However, if you want to publish this paper, you should do that. And probably somewhere here, you should have those kind of thing. Proposition. Proposition. For example, if this condition blah blah is satisfied, then some evolutionary equilibrium blah blah happens. And also you should add a proof. I get to that equilibrium by solving this table with using this way, and you should show that. Then in the result, you are going to interpret this proposition. That is this. For example, here you said that equilibrium point 0, means that strategy that poor farmers do not choose and e-commerce platform sells, and the strategy that e-commerce platform does not participate, do not choose, does not participate. Rather, because you are using evolutionary game theory, you should something like that. Under this condition is satisfied, then this is an evolutionary equilibrium that at the end of the day, poor farmers, only poor farmers who are not good at dealing with this new method e-commerce will be majority, and the e-commerce platform which do not help the poor or maybe egoistic e-commerce will be the majority in this market. That will be an equilibrium and blah blah. Then you can interpret it and so on and so on. So my point here is that you should solve numerically. I mean, but it's impossible because there are numbers, so many space, there are so many, I mean, variable space you need to look at, so that I recommend you to add more assumptions to narrow down the space, this background variable space, to be solvable. This is too big. So by adding more assumptions, you should add more assumptions regarding these variables. For example, C1 should be greater than C2, maybe C3, or maybe C1 should be less than C3, something like that. So by doing that, you should narrow down the parameter space so that such that you can solve it in a realistic way. Then you can increase external validity. Okay, so if you do that, I think this paper will be improved more to be published in a journal. Okay, so to sum up, I think that's fine. I mean, if you are using this evolutionary game theory, but you should justify. And the second thing is that change a little bit, I mean, the terms and the way of building up the game. I mean, change the terms and the way of building up a game following the general notion or general, I mean, terms used in evolutionary game theory. Basically, if you are using evolutionary game theory, this is not a strategy, okay? Not strategy. This is a kind of DNA or something. Cannot be chosen, okay? And at the end of the day, you should solve this numerically. Like by doing that, you should show some kind of propositions. Proposition 1, 2, 3. I mean, under certain condition, I mean, this equilibrium will happen. Under certain condition, this equilibrium will happen. And then you should interpret that and should add those kind of policy implication. Okay, then this paper is good. And I think this is very nice and very interesting idea. So if we do that, I think it's possible to be published somewhere. Anyway, if you keep developing this idea, maybe I can help you. But even after this, class, also I can add my help, or I can give my help. Anyway, thank you for taking my class in this semester. Because of coronavirus, I mean, everything went weird. So this is not a good semester. However, because you keep studying something, so I think you can improve yourself as much as you want. We'll see you later. Okay, I'm stopping here.